Welcome to my channel, to everyone who's new here, and of course to those of you who are back again. Great to have you here. In this video we will take a look together at possible scenarios for the price development of several altcoins. Things remain exciting, so make sure to watch until the end. You will also find another video on my channel where I analyze Bitcoin and Ethereum daily. That's definitely worth checking out. And also worth checking out is the crypto exchange mexc, which has a similar trading volume to Bitget, OKX and Bybit, but the only difference are the low taker fees. 0.01% for opening and closing a trade is very cheap. And on top of that, if you use my referral link, which you can find in the video description, then you save another 20% on your low taker fees. And also 100 pairs with zero fees just on mexc, and here you also can see a huge list of popular altcoins which you can trade without any fees. So let's get to XRP. I think XRP is currently in a huge triangle. If the triangle breaks to the upside, which is currently the mark of $2.22, then the first target would be the $2.25. But if we also break that to the upside, $2.30. But then I would be careful, because this then can get a double top pattern, which is a bearish pattern. If we break it to the downside later, then we can even sell off. So far it didn't happen, so we don't have to think about that, but still keep that in mind. Also, if that triangle breaks to the downside, the $2.17, then we take the same target, which is the spread of that triangle, put it to our breakout point, and then we would see the $2.09, and that would also get us to the target of the shoulder head shoulder formation from before. Yeah, we have tracked here on the 50 minutes chart a shoulder head shoulder formation which already broke to the downside, and we already hit the target of one shoulder. If we can put this to our breakout point, then you can see we already hit one target of it, but we can also work off a whole head. So if this triangle breaks to the downside, then we have two targets heading into the area $2.09 to $2.07, and here we also have a fair value gap which we would close. I also have put here another circle, but this is just if we break the $2.30 to the upside, then we still have more potential to the upside. I doubt that we are going to get there, but still I was too bearish last week, so I don't want to say that it can't happen. For sure it can happen, but still. What I also want to show you is if the $2.04 breaking to the downside, then I think we are going to get, let's say step by step lower. If we break one support of that, then we are going to fall to the next one, $1.98. If that one breaks, then we can even meet the fair value gap between $1.89 to $1.92. So it doesn't matter where XRP is going to break out. We have two options, and I think it's going to get clear very soon where XRP is going to go. So what about Dogecoin? I think I've also put here a circle for a fair value gap, which is over us, and we already got with that wick a small part of that fair value gap, and we don't have to close it 100%. We can also get a huge pullback, and from here get the strength to get into that fair value gap. So the fair value gaps doesn't always have to get closed in a short time. Anyway, what I have tracked here is a possible rising wedge. If it breaks to the downside 17.7 cents, then the target of that rising wedge would be the 15.5 cents. And also what I have tracked here is a double top pattern, and if that breaks the 16.9 cents, let's say 17 cents, then the target of that double top pattern would be the 15.4 cents. And as you can see, we also have support lower than us, which is very close to it. This is the 15.3 cents, and also the target of that rising wedge is very close to it. So if we break it to the downside, then I think the chance is very high that we are going to meet this area. If the 15.35 cents breaks to the downside, then we can think about lower prices for Dogecoin. I doubt that we even break that to the downside, but for sure we are missing data at the moment. And on the way down, we would also close the fair value gaps lower than us. So, what about Solana? Solana also looks to me that we have built up a falling wedge. Let's zoom in. We haven't broke that to the downside yet. We got a bounce. Yeah, and I think that trend line is going to get valid if we get a small bounce to the upside and then break it to the downside. Yeah, if we break that to the downside sustainable, then I would enter a short trade, a smaller one with a stop loss over us. And then you can see the red trend lines already. Whenever we break something to the downside, then I would increase my position size a bit more. But also keep in mind, I'm not doubling up, since those 3 red trend lines are very close to each other. So if I want to say, okay, I have, let's say, $100 in Solana. Once we break the rising wedge to the downside, then I would say, okay, I put in here, if we break this, $25 more. Here maybe $15 more. And here the last push, I can even think, okay, $50 on top of that. So basically, that is going to happen. I'm not going to double up whenever we break a red trend line to the downside. But also then, if we break to the downside, then I would also set my stop loss to break even. Yeah, so I'm scaling up for a huge possible and huge, let's say a possible huge profitable trade. That's what I'm aiming for, because I think the target is going to get 137 US dollar, where we also have a fair value gap here. And if I scale up in a safe way, then it can get even a huge profitable trade. Just take this, it's still 8%, 8.8% without leverage. Put leverage on that, that is going to get very interesting. If we break that rising wedge to the upside, which is currently the 157 US dollar, I doubt it, but still it can happen. Then we also have huge fair value gaps over us between $159.8 to 163 US dollar. I will put a circle here because I can't see a fair value gap once it gets closed afterwards. So what about Cardano? Cardano did nothing actually. We got here a breakout candle, but the retest failed. Yeah, we got the retest. It was also short, to be honest, but we didn't get the follow through. So basically, stop loss set here. So it didn't got hit yet, but it's very close to get hit. I also think that Cardano is slowly getting into my stop loss. Usually I don't prefer to enter a short trade here, but I still did. Yeah, and then we have to see what is going to happen. I still think if we take out the high at 74.5 cents, I would still put your price mark here. Then we have the chance to get into 2 circuits above us where we have huge fair value gaps. But I think if that is going to happen, that is going to get the last push for Cardano before we then sell off a bit much more than most people expect. So if we break the 71 cents again to the downside, then it would be positive, because I think we can meet the area 66.6 cents again. And if we also break that to the downside, and if we break the, I have to change the price now, 65.2 cents to the downside, where I would also think about we will get across later. So if we break that to the downside, then I would even increase my position size for my short trade for Cardano. So what about render? For render, it looks like a double top pattern. And if it breaks to the downside, yeah, I have made it a bit different than usual. I have found a trend line, which I think if it breaks to the downside, then it's already short. And I take the target of that double top pattern and put it to that breakout point. Usually we would say, okay, we have to wait here until this low breaks to the downside. With the time, the spread is going to get far higher. So I get an earlier trade with a higher chance of meeting into that area. So that is my plan for render at the moment. I'm still waiting for, let me change the price tag now. Currently $4.29, but still price moves to the upside later. So $4.30 is going to get very interesting. And then the area between $3.70 to $3.83 is going to get very interesting, because we also have a huge fair value gap here. And if we look into the Elliott wave count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setups. So this wave 1 is done. After a wave 1, you can see a wave 2 is coming. We have seen it here. We had here a smaller wave 1 and also a wave 2 correction. And if we count this whole move to the upside as a wave 1, then we can get a wave 2 down to $3.37 to $3 USDT for render. So what about ONDO? I have said, okay, if we get over the high here at $1.04 and break to the upside, then we have here a huge fair value gap which we can close for ONDO. But it looks like that this resistance is too high to break to the upside, so this looks to me like a possible double top pattern. So I would personally look for the 94.5 cents. If they break to the downside, then the target would be the 85.5 cents. But here we have also support and would also close 100% of a fair value gap. So I doubt that we get into that area, 85.5 cents, as long as we don't break this white trend line to the downside. If we break it to the downside, then 85 cents would be the next target. So what my primarily target would be the 88.7 cents for ONDO if I enter a trade after we break the 94.5 cents. And then we have to see if we break more and more price marks to the downside, then we have here a huge fair value gap left. And I think 76.67 is going to get very interesting for ONDO. What about SUI? I can't tell you much about SUI. I don't see any chart structure here, nothing. We had here a resistance area. This is a purple box on a higher time frame. As you can see, in that area the price got bounces very often. So what I have done with SUI was I entered a short trade here, and here was my stop loss. So basically I wanted to take this trade. It didn't work. We went into a higher high. I can always do the same, and yeah, we can even pump up 10 times in the same way. Like I'm going into the short and still get a higher high. I'm getting into a short and we still get another higher high. But I think it will work. Anytime soon it should work. And if it's working, then we are going to get a huge pullback. And if we talk about those kinds of pullback, then it's still 15%, 30%, 40%. So it's still possible. So I think a huge profitable trade is incoming for SUI soon. But I don't see any bearish structures at the moment. It might be possible that maybe we get another push to the upside and then we have the first bearish pattern. But SUI didn't give me any bearish chart patterns. I think since a few days, 4 days, 5 days, I haven't seen even one. I didn't even see a bullish pattern. So basically SUI is just running up and I can't do much about it, instead of, let's say, gambling with a high risk to reward ratio. So what about HBAR? What I have tracked for HBAR was here a double top pattern, a possible, or a rectangle. And what I was assuming is if we break the previous high to the upside, then here was a fair value gap which we should close. We closed it, but we also went higher. And the target which I have put here we can do the same in a rectangle, or if a double top pattern breaks to the upside, yeah, it's the same pattern, then we can take the same spread to the breakout point and we already hit it. So I can take it to the, I will still keep it because we still have the chance to get one last push. But what happens after that, I can't tell you that, because we can still get more up. Maybe HBAR is super bullish, and while the other coins are going sideways, HBAR is going to get, like SUI for example, if 50% pump. We can look at, for example, Bitcoin went sidewards in that triangle. What did SUI do? It went up. And not even a low amount. Let's take this one here just. It still went up 45%. So the same can happen for HBAR for sure. So I'm going to wait for more targets and more data where I can say if we break to the downside, then it would be positive. For sure I can take out this target, this chart pattern, because we already broke to the upside. We can't be bearish at the moment for HBAR. The first sign of bearishness, yeah, I have to wait for the 18.9 cents, so let's say 19 cents. If they break to the downside, then we are back into that rectangle, and then we can even meet the area again here between 17.5 cents, 17.4 cents, maybe there. So that is going to be possible. I would still try a short trade once we break the 19 cents to the downside, depending on for sure how we break to the downside. If we get a huge flash crash with a huge fair value gap, then the chances are high that we even close that fair value gap to then sell off. So we have to see it. But if we get slowly down without any fair value gaps and we break then to the downside, maybe get a nice retest, then I can enter a short trade and put my stop loss over a previous high. So I hope that I gave you some valuable information. Today it was very quick update. So I hope that you were in a good long trade. I think it's slowly getting time to take profits, because it's not going to be every push to the upside is endless. Yeah, it has its limits and it needs a correction. And I think the pullback which we are going to get is going to get a huge one. But overall, for the overall market, I think that we have seen our lows. I don't think that we are going to get lower than the lows which we got in most cases here. Yeah, most coins did their lows in that area. I don't think that we are going to sell off and get into the bear market. I think we are going to get one major push to the upside on the long term. So if we get a pullback, then it's just going to be a higher low, and after that a major push to the upside. So I hope that I gave you some valuable information, and see you tomorrow in the next updates.